This is Wisdom by the Sea podcast, the space for thought-provoking messages to inspire, motivate, and elevate you to live your best life. Listen as you start your mornings being present and mindful. Set the tone for your day or close out your night with words of love, affirmation, and support. Learn how to release stress and tap into the power of love. Elevate and master your mindset for a more harmonious and balanced life. It's an exciting journey as host, author, and poet Fiona Wright takes the lead.
Good day, my beautiful one. I hope things are blessed in your world. Recently, I had a day of listening to some of my old favorite songs. Back in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, and I would probably say closer to about the 80s, early 90s, the music back then defined the soundtrack of many experiences. The way most people listen to music, or should I say the way I listen to music, I would pick a soundtrack that would describe my experience at that given time. So if it was a moment of being in love, there were music that you could listen to that just spoke your language in every single way. If you were upset, there were songs that just, I remember Karen White, I Am Not Your Superwoman. That was my song. You had women singing all over, yelling at the top of their lungs, I'm not your superwoman. I mean, you could pick up so many songs that once you listen to them, it would take you back. So I was listening to a song by one of my favorite songstress at that time. And when you listen to this, the term songstress, the person that fits that description was Anita Baker. So I'm listening to Anita Baker's song, and rather than just browse and say, oh yeah, I remember when I was listening to that song when I lived in Baltimore, I allowed myself to listen deeply and connect with my 20-year-old self, listening to it at that time, experiencing what I was experiencing at that time. And giving that experience a bird's eye view, it brought up several lessons for me, of which I'd like to share with you now. So as I look back at my 20-year-old self, I saw this young girl being a giver, just loving hard and being a giver, and didn't demand much in return in terms of making it balanced, because I was feeding off of what was taught to me, which was, it's better to give than to receive. And so as you give, you weren't expected to get the same or more in return. That was not what you were supposed to do. So I lived in such a way that commanded and made me obligated to being one of a giver. I'm looking back at this young girl who ended up with a broken heart because she gave so much more than what she received, and it landed her into being broken. So as I'm writing this letter, I wasn't necessarily healing from anything, but I was recognizing all the things that I was healed from. And so I'm sharing this letter with the person who was involved in my experience at the time, not to judge, but I also wanted them to be aware of how they offended me back then. So while I've forgiven him, it was also important to highlight how he showed up in my life and what I experienced as a result. You see, I did this in a way that would allow that person to take a look at what they may have done and how they offended me in that process. And oftentimes we go through life and we become repeat offenders. The universe has a way of dealing with repeat offenders. And all of us at some point have offended somebody in our life. So none of us have gone through life or think that we can scrape through life without being held accountable, without taking responsibility. So this moment is not about pointing fingers about what somebody did to me or somebody did to you, but it's how we all showed up, how we attracted certain experiences in our life because we needed to learn a particular lesson, or if we're the person who did the offending, perhaps we didn't know better, but now we can do better. And so as I was recanting some of these experiences, I drew some examples, shared it with the person who now we've reconnected some 35 years later. And I was able to share from my point of view how I felt during that time and how the experience showed up in my life and how I thought that they showed up in their life. And so my reason for doing that was not to judge because we've both moved on, but it was more so paying attention to not becoming repeat offenders. And so as we are in this moment, we have the ability to change or modify the soundtrack of our life and to make sure that the music played, the lyrics that we put out, the actions that we participate in, and how we engage with the other person dancing to the beat of our life, that we make sure that when they recant the message and the soundtrack of the life, that it is one that's going to create love, harmony, balance. It's one that will bring lessons from it. It's one of forgiveness, and it's one that's healthy so we can move forward to a future that is not hinged upon an old beat. And so today, I say play on with music, but let's be conscious of the way that we live our lives that shows up with a certain rhythm. Life right now is shouting a particular rhythm that is having and bearing consequences of people either feeling doom and gloom. However, we're in a position to recreate a soundtrack that creates balance and harmony with the universe and with the source of love, with God. And so I say today, as we go on, dancing to our own beat, sharing a two-step with a partner, sharing a music that sends out beautiful balanced fragrance to the world, that we be conscious of the music that we play and be conscious of the life that we live. So in this moment, I do want to say thanks to the Creator for allowing even a life lesson then that shows up now with a bird's eye view that says we all have the ability to grow and evolve. We all have the ability to change and not play the same old song. We all have the ability to reduce and eradicate becoming repeat offenders. And so we are thankful for this growth. We're thankful for wisdom by the sea. We're thankful for our beautiful angels. We're thankful for our honored ancestors. We're thankful for all these lessons that have come to our consciousness, that we can live each day being a better version of ourselves. So we give thanks for all of that. Thank you for listening. I pray that this message will bring forth light and learning in your life as it has mine. I am your sister in spirit, Fiona, sending you love, one big love. And as always, I bring to you the very best in peace, love, and harmony.